Let's get straight to it. The Ethiopian Bible is unlike anything you've seen. We're not talking about just a few extra chapters here and there. This is an entirely different collection of books. It has 81 to 88 books, compared to the 66 books in most Western Bibles. So why the difference? Why has this version of the Bible been kept out of the mainstream? It's not just about more verses, it's about the kind of stories and knowledge that change everything. You see, the Ethiopian Bible contains texts that were considered too controversial for the Western Church. Books like Enoch, Jubilees, and 1 and 2 Maccabea offer a completely different view of the spiritual world, one that challenges centuries of church doctrine. This isn't just an academic debate about old manuscripts. These texts could upend what we think we know about Christianity. In the book of Enoch, angels aren't just obedient messengers of God, they rebel, they descend to earth, and they create an entire race of giant, supernatural beings known as the Nephilim. It's like a cosmic drama that's been erased from history. And for what? Because it didn't fit the sanitized version of faith that was being pushed by church authorities in Rome and beyond. The Ethiopian Bible also has Jubilees, which retells Genesis, but with hidden details that were left out of the Western version. It's got laws, prophecies, and timelines that don't line up with the familiar stories we've been taught. And then there's 1 and 2 Maccabea, not to be confused with the Maccabees found in Catholic and Orthodox Bibles. These books speak of fierce wars, divine intervention, and a narrative that was entirely wiped from the Christian story as we know it today. So why have these books been forbidden? Were they just inconvenient for the religious elites who wanted a Bible that fit their vision of power and control? Or is there something more dangerous here? Something that challenges the very foundation of Western Christianity? These texts contain knowledge that was hidden, locked away for centuries, while the Ethiopian Orthodox Church quietly kept them safe, preserving a version of Christianity that stayed untouched by Roman politics and manipulation. Western Christianity got its makeover through the Council of Nicaea, Constantine's political agendas, and centuries of edits and translations that carefully removed any idea that didn't fit. But Ethiopia? Ethiopia didn't play that game. They held on to these forbidden texts, and they still have them today. This raises a huge question. What else was cut from the Bible? What other knowledge did the early church suppress to maintain control? The Ethiopian Bible shows us a Christianity that's raw, supernatural, and yes, dangerous. It challenges everything, and maybe that's why you've never heard of it until now. Now, if the sheer number of hidden books in the Ethiopian Bible isn't enough to get you questioning everything, let's dive into one of its most controversial texts, the Book of Enoch. You've probably heard of Enoch. He's mentioned briefly in the regular Bible as the man who walked with God, but that's just a footnote compared to what the Book of Enoch reveals. In this text, Enoch is taken on a journey through the heavens, witnessing cosmic secrets and divine judgments that would blow your mind. But the real shocker, it's what Enoch says about the Watchers, a group of angels who rebelled against God and descended to earth. We're talking about angels who didn't just disobey, they crossed a line that no other story in the Bible talks about. These Watchers fell in love with human women and produced offspring, the Nephilim, giants with extraordinary powers. Suddenly those vague references to giants in Genesis and Numbers make a lot more sense, don't they? But here's the twist. These beings were responsible for spreading forbidden knowledge, teaching humans about weapons, sorcery, and all kinds of dark arts. This wasn't just an angelic rebellion, it was the beginning of humanity's descent into chaos. The Book of Enoch wasn't just left out of the Bible, it was actively banned. Why? Because it tells a story where supernatural beings aren't simply under God's control, they're acting on their own, rebelling, influencing humanity in ways that challenge the typical narrative of good versus evil. It complicates the idea of divine order, and that's dangerous for any institution that thrives on simple answers. And guess what? The Book of Enoch isn't just a wild myth, it directly influenced early Christian thought. In fact, some scholars believe it played a key role in shaping New Testament ideas about fallen angels and final judgment. Yet it was labeled as too radical, too unorthodox, and it was erased from the Bible most of us grew up with. So we've uncovered how the Book of Enoch blew the lid off hidden knowledge and supernatural rebellion. But how did this forbidden text and others like it get cut out of the Bible in the first place? It wasn't just by chance. This was part of a deliberate move during one of the most pivotal moments in Christian history, the Council of Nicaea. In 325 AD, under Emperor Constantine, the Council of Nicaea was called, not to debate the nuances of spirituality, but to decide the future of Christianity, what it would look like, what it would teach, and more importantly, what it wouldn't. This wasn't a religious discussion, it was about political power. Christianity was on the verge of becoming the state religion of the Roman Empire, and the last thing Constantine wanted was a fragmented faith filled with competing ideas. So the council got to work deciding which texts would form the official Bible and which would be banned, forgotten, or destroyed. The Ethiopian Bible, however, escaped this. It wasn't bound by Roman politics or the decisions of this council. It preserved texts that the rest of Christianity would never see again, texts that offer a rougher, more complex version of spiritual history. Books like Enoch and Jubilees were pushed aside by the Western Church because they didn't fit into the streamlined, state-approved version of Christianity. In other words, they were too dangerous, too messy, and way too supernatural for an empire looking to consolidate its power. The Council of Nicaea wasn't just about theology, it was about control. By deciding what the official Bible would include, they could shape the future of Christianity to fit the needs of the Roman Empire. They wanted a religion that was easy to teach, easy to follow, and most importantly, easy to govern. The texts in the Ethiopian Bible, with their cosmic battles, rebellious angels, and hidden truths, didn't serve that purpose. So they were cast out, labeled heretical, and eventually forgotten by the Western world. So we've explored how political and theological forces shaped what became the official Bible in the West, but now we get to one of the most fascinating and mysterious aspects of the Ethiopian Bible: its connection to the Ark of the Covenant and the role Ethiopia plays in preserving ancient divine knowledge. Ethiopia claims to have something that is arguably the most important relic in biblical history, the Ark of the Covenant. Yes, the same Ark that, according to the Bible, carried the Ten Commandments and possibly even more sacred relics of untold power. This isn't just an Indiana Jones plotline, this is a claim rooted in Ethiopian tradition, and it ties directly into why the Ethiopian Bible is so crucial to understanding ancient Christian history. According to Ethiopian tradition, the Ark was brought to Ethiopia by none other than Menelik I, the son of King Solomon and the Queen of Sheba. That's right, the same Queen of Sheba who visited Solomon, as detailed in the Bible, is believed to have had a son with him. And it was this son, Menelik, according to Ethiopian law, brought the Ark from Jerusalem to Ethiopia. The Ethiopian Orthodox Church believes that the Ark has been kept hidden and guarded for millennia in a small, heavily protected chapel in Axum. Now think about what that means. If the Ark of the Covenant, the literal dwelling place of God's presence, according to the Bible, ended up in Ethiopia, that makes Ethiopia a central player in biblical history, yet Western Christianity has largely ignored this. Why? Because Ethiopia, with its unedited, uncensored Bible, and its claim to the Ark, disrupts the narrative. It suggests that there are dimensions of divine history that have been intentionally downplayed or erased by Western religious authorities. And the Ark itself. It's not just a symbol. According to the Bible, it was a weapon. It was carried into battle, brought down walls, and unleashed divine power in ways that are hard to comprehend. The Ethiopians don't treat this lightly. The guardians of the Ark in Axum live in isolation, dedicating their entire lives to protecting it. No one else is allowed to see it, touch it, or even come near it. But why has this claim been ignored or ridiculed by Western scholars? Well, it's no coincidence that, just like the banned books of the Ethiopian Bible, the idea that Ethiopia could be holding the most sacred object in biblical history undermines the dominance of Western Christianity's narrative. It forces us to confront the possibility that divine relics and knowledge were preserved far away from the centers of power in Rome and Europe, safeguarded by a country that was never part of the Roman Empire or its theological maneuvers. The Ark, if it's truly in Ethiopia, represents more than just the past. It's not just an artifact of biblical history, it's a connection to divine power that continues to exist today. The Ark was said to communicate directly with God, to channel his presence on earth. If Ethiopia has protected it for thousands of years, what else have they preserved that we don't know about? Let's be clear, the fact that Ethiopia claims to hold the Ark isn't just about relics. It's about the authority of the Ethiopian Orthodox Church, a church that's older than much of what we consider Christianity in the West. This church has maintained traditions, practices, and texts that predate the councils of Rome and the theological battles that shaped European Christianity. And unlike the West, which molded Christianity into a religion of the empire, Ethiopia's version of the faith remains untainted by the political ambitions of Rome. The Ark of the Covenant being in Ethiopia not only links this ancient civilization to the biblical past, but suggests a direct line to divine knowledge that has been overlooked, dismissed, or outright suppressed by Western scholars and church authorities. And if the Ethiopian church holds the Ark, what else are they keeping? What other relics, texts, or knowledge about the divine remain hidden, locked away, waiting for the world to finally open its eyes? This question isn't just about the past. It's about power, spiritual power, historical power, and political power. If Ethiopia truly has the Ark, it means they possess something that directly challenges the religious authority of the West. After all, the Ark wasn't just an artifact, it was a conduit for God's presence, a physical manifestation of his power. And if that's the case, it suggests that Ethiopia has maintained a connection to the divine that Western Christianity has lost or has never fully understood. We're not talking about mythology here. This isn't some legend passed down through folklore. Ethiopia's claim to the Ark is taken so seriously that its location is guarded with military precision. The fact that no one else has been allowed to see it only fuels speculation, but it also reinforces the sense that Ethiopia has been tasked with preserving something too powerful for the rest of the world to handle. Think about it. While the West was tearing itself apart over theological debates and political power struggles, Ethiopia quietly preserved the Ark, along with books and knowledge that the rest of the Christian world had long forgotten. It's no wonder the Ethiopian Bible is so radically different from what most people know today. This is a Bible that hasn't been sanitized, edited, or censored to fit the needs of an empire. It's a Bible that retains the raw power of the spiritual world, a Bible that reflects the full scope of divine history. And Ethiopia's role as the guardian of the Ark only amplifies this. The Ark wasn't just any sacred object, it was central to the covenant between God and his people. If Ethiopia holds the Ark, it suggests that this nation, this church, has a direct role in the divine covenant, one that Western Christianity has ignored for far too long. Ethiopia isn't just some outlier in Christian history, it's arguably the oldest, purest form of Christianity still standing. While the rest of the world was busy rewriting and restructuring the faith to fit new empires and kingdoms, Ethiopia held fast to the traditions, scriptures, and customs and teachings of the early church. The role of the Ethiopian church in preserving ancient Christianity goes far beyond just books and relics. It represents a living connection to the roots of the faith, one that's been almost entirely overlooked by the West. And this isn't by accident. While Western Christianity was redefined and reshaped by the political ambitions of Rome, the Crusades, and the Reformation, Ethiopia remained isolated, untouched by these forces. Its church wasn't influenced by Roman law or European politics. It never bowed to the authority of popes or councils. This means that the Ethiopian Orthodox Church may very well be the closest thing we have to the original Christian tradition. Think about that for a second. All the debates, the schisms, the councils that divided Christianity in the West, none of that touched Ethiopia. Their faith didn't evolve to suit the needs of an empire. It remained true to the teachings of the early apostles. Has Western Christianity lost its way? When you look at the Ethiopian Bible, the texts it preserved, and the claims it holds, including the Ark, it suggests that Ethiopia may have retained something far more authentic, something far more ancient, that the rest of the world let go of a long time ago. The Ethiopian Orthodox Church isn't some obscure, isolated sect. It's one of the oldest Christian communities in the world, and its traditions go back nearly 2 millennia. Yet for centuries it's been ignored, pushed aside, and treated as irrelevant by Western Christianity. Why? Because the Ethiopian Church's very existence challenges the narrative that the Roman Catholic Church, and later Protestantism, established as the dominant form of Christianity. Ethiopia represents a version of the faith that didn't go through the filter of Roman emperors, medieval kings, or European theologians. It's a faith that has preserved not only different texts, but also different traditions, different interpretations, and even different understandings of key events in Christian history. One of the most fascinating aspects of the Ethiopian Church is its connection to Jewish traditions. Unlike Western Christianity, which largely separated itself from its Jewish roots early on, the Ethiopian Church maintained practices that are deeply tied to Old Testament traditions. For example, the Ethiopian liturgy includes rituals that closely resemble ancient Jewish practices, something you won't find in most Western churches today. Why is this important? Because it suggests that Ethiopia's version of Christianity is more closely aligned with the faith as it was practiced by the earliest followers of Jesus, many of whom were Jewish themselves. And then there's the calendar. While most of the Christian world follows the Gregorian calendar, the Ethiopian Church follows its own ancient calendar, which places the current year as 2016, not 2024. That's right. According to the Ethiopian calendar, we're still in 2016. This might seem like a small detail, but it's actually hugely significant. The calendar you follow shapes how you understand time, history, and prophecy. The fact that Ethiopia uses a different calendar means they are operating on a completely different timeline from the rest of the world, which raises questions about how much of what we consider history has been shaped by Western Christian interpretations and how much has been lost because of it. The Ethiopian Church's isolation wasn't just physical, it was theological. While Rome and Constantinople were battling over doctrine, while Europe was tearing itself apart during the Reformation, Ethiopia was quietly preserving a version of Christianity that remained true to its roots. This isn't some relic of the past, it's a living, breathing tradition that survived for nearly 2,000 years. And the fact that the Western world has ignored it for so long is no accident. To acknowledge Ethiopia's place in Christian history is to admit that the version of Christianity most people know today is just one version, a version shaped by centuries of political manipulation, theological debate, and imperial control. And let's not forget, Ethiopia wasn't just ignored, it was actively marginalized. When European colonizers arrived in Africa, they didn't embrace Ethiopia's ancient Christian tradition. They tried to impose their own. The same Western powers that reshaped Christianity in Europe looked at Ethiopia's unfiltered version of the faith and saw it as a threat, something that needed to be controlled or erased. This is why the Ethiopian Orthodox Church, despite its ancient roots, remains largely unknown to most Christians today. But here's the thing, Ethiopia doesn't need the West's validation. It's been practicing Christianity longer than most Western nations have even existed, and it's been doing so with a Bible that includes books, prophecies, and traditions that the West abandoned centuries ago. The Ethiopian Church's role in preserving ancient Christianity is a reminder that the faith we know today didn't evolve in a vacuum. It was shaped, molded, and often manipulated to fit the needs of powerful empires. But Ethiopia? Ethiopia held on to something different. Something older, something true. The implications of this are huge. If Ethiopia has preserved the original form of Christianity, then everything we think we know about the faith's history could be wrong. The councils, the schisms, the debates, none of that touches the version of Christianity that Ethiopia has maintained. And if that's the case, then maybe it's time to rethink what we consider Orthodox Christianity. Western Christianity likes to think of itself as the dominant, true form of the faith, but the Ethiopian Orthodox Church shows us that there's another story, a story that's been hidden for centuries. A story that challenges everything we think we know about the Bible, the Church, and the history of Christianity itself. So as we wrap this up, one thing is clear, Ethiopia's role in Christian history cannot be ignored any longer. The Church, the Bible, the Ark, they all tell us that there's a version of Christianity out there that has been quietly preserved, untouched by the forces that reshape the Western world. And if that version of the faith holds the key to understanding the true origins of Christianity, then it's time we start paying attention.